Story 1. I slammed into a fallen pine so hard the air left my lungs, and when I looked down at my phone, it said 4:12 p.m. even though the sky above me was completely black. My flashlight was dying, something was crashing through the trees behind me, and I couldn't understand why my last text message had been sent 3 hours from the future. The strangest part wasn't any of that. It was the GPS. The blue dot wasn't moving with me anymore. It was still following someone else deeper into the woods. I don't tell this story often because every time I do, somebody eventually asks the same question. If you knew something was wrong, why did you keep following him? The honest answer is, I don't really know. Maybe because nothing felt dangerous at first. Maybe because he looked like the kind of person you'd naturally trust. Or maybe because once I realized something was wrong, I wasn't following him anymore. I was trying to find my way back. This happened last September in Washington State. I'd driven out alone for a weekend hike after a stressful stretch at work. Nothing extreme, just one of those well-reviewed forest trails people recommend when they want a quiet afternoon. The parking lot wasn't full, maybe 7 or 8 vehicles. Families were already heading back, a couple unloading mountain bikes. One older guy organizing fishing gear. Everything looked normal. I signed the trail register around 3:30. That's where I first noticed him. Tall, gray hiking jacket, dark backpack, no trekking poles. He wasn't looking at the map like everyone else. He was watching people leave. When only a handful of us remained, he finally stepped onto the trail. About 30 seconds later, so did I. At first, we kept roughly the same pace. Never spoke, never got too close. Just two strangers walking the same direction. About 40 minutes in, I caught up because he had stopped beside an old trail junction. One sign pointed toward the official loop. The other marker had fallen over. He smiled before I even said anything. "You heading back?" Eventually, he nodded toward the damaged trail. "There's a shortcut." I checked the park map. Nothing. "No, seriously," he laughed. "Locals use it." That sounded believable. People always know unofficial paths. I hesitated. He noticed. "If you're worried, my GPS has it." He held up his phone. Sure enough, there it was. A narrow trail, connected perfectly. Mine updated a second later. Same shortcut. That should have been my first warning. Because later, when investigators looked at my location history, that trail never existed. We started down together. The path was surprisingly clear, fresh footprints, broken branches, even bicycle tracks. Nothing suggested it had been abandoned. For the first 10 minutes we talked casually. He said he'd hiked there dozens of times. He knew the area well, worked somewhere nearby. Nothing memorable. Actually, that's something that bothers me now. I remember his voice, his jacket, his backpack, but I can't remember his name. I know he told me. I repeated it twice. Now it's just gone. Around sunset, he stopped walking. Listen, I did. No birds, no wind, nothing. The silence felt heavy. Then my phone vibrated. No notification, just vibration. Screen lit by itself. GPS recalculating. Instead of showing the shortcut connecting back to the main trail, a new destination appeared automatically. Remaining distance, 0.8 miles. Destination, unknown location. No address, no pin, just those words. I laughed awkwardly. My phone's freaking out. He looked at my screen. His smile disappeared. "You should ignore that." Something about how quickly he answered made me uncomfortable. "You've seen this before?" "No." "Then how do you know?" He didn't answer. Instead, he started walking faster. I nearly stayed behind. Nearly. But daylight was disappearing. Being alone suddenly felt worse than following him. So I kept moving. About 5 minutes later, we found an empty picnic table. Except, someone had placed 2 unopened bottles of water on top. Cold. Still covered with condensation. No backpacks. No people. Nothing. My companion didn't even look at them. He walked straight past. I asked if we should check whether someone needed help. Without slowing down, he said, "Don't touch anything that looks recently used." That sentence stayed with me because it sounded practiced, not frightened, practiced. My phone buzzed again. A text from my sister. "Are you okay? You stopped replying an hour ago." I frowned. I'd texted her maybe 15 minutes earlier. The timestamp on my message said 5:48 p.m. My phone clock read 4:57 p.m. I stared for several seconds, then refreshed. The message still existed, sent 51 minutes into the future. I showed him. He barely looked. "You should turn your phone off." "No, you really should." "Why?" "Because if it keeps correcting itself." He stopped speaking. "Correcting what?" He just kept walking. That's when I considered turning around. Except the trail behind us looked different. Not dramatically, just narrower, like branches had leaned inward. I figured I was imagining it. Stress does strange things. Then we heard voices. 2 people, somewhere ahead. Relief, finally. We rounded the bend. Nobody. The voices stopped instantly. The stranger kept moving, didn't react. "You didn't hear that?" "I heard enough." "Enough?" "Enough what?" "Enough what?" Before I could ask, we reached another trail sign. It pointed back toward the parking lot. Distance, 1.2 miles. That couldn't be right. We'd already walked farther than that. I checked my fitness app. It claimed I'd covered only 0.4 miles since entering the shortcut. Impossible. The stranger finally pulled out his own phone. His expression changed. "What?" "My battery." "What about it?" "It was 90%. Now it was 12. Mine had dropped almost exactly the same amount." Neither phone felt worn. Neither showed heavy usage. Then, without warning, his phone shut off. Battery empty. Mine followed less than 30 seconds later. Complete black screen. No flashlight. Nothing. We stood there in growing darkness. He sighed, almost like he'd expected it. Then he reached into his backpack, pulled out an old flashlight, not LED, one of those heavy aluminum ones. The beam flickered, weak. "How often do you hike here?" I asked. He hesitated. "I don't." "But you said." I lied. I stopped walking. He kept going. I needed somebody else on the trail. That sentence hit harder than anything else he'd said. What? I didn't want to be alone after sunset. Those were the last honest words he ever spoke to me. Or at least, the last ones I believed. A loud crack echoed somewhere behind us. Tree branch, maybe, or footsteps. Then another, closer. We turned together. Nothing visible beyond the flashlight beam. Still, we both started walking faster. No discussion, no plan, just instinct. The strange thing was, whatever followed us never seemed to gain ground. It stayed exactly far enough away that we could hear movement, but never see it. 20 feet, 30 maybe, always hidden. Eventually we reached a service road. Fresh tire tracks crossed it. Relief washed over me. Civilization. Someone had to be nearby. Then I noticed something impossible. The tire tracks entered the road, but never left it. They simply ended in the middle of the gravel. The stranger saw them too. He whispered, "We're late." "Late for what?" He wouldn't answer. Headlights suddenly appeared through the trees. A park truck. Finally, I waved both arms. The truck slowed. Stopped. A ranger stepped out. He looked annoyed more than concerned. "You two know this section closed an hour ago?" I almost laughed. "We've been trying to get back." He looked from me to the stranger, then back again. "Who you talking about?" I frowned. "The guy beside me." The ranger's face didn't change. "There isn't anybody beside you." I turned. The stranger was gone. No footsteps, no running, no sound, just gone. I searched the trees with the flashlight. Nothing. The ranger asked if I was feeling all right. I told him exactly what had happened. He listened carefully. Didn't interrupt once. Then he asked something that still bothers me. What color was his backpack? Black. You sure? Yeah. The ranger nodded slowly. That's what everyone says. I didn't understand. He drove me back to the station. My car was still there, parking lot almost empty. Inside the office, he checked the trail register. Only one name had signed into that shortcut area. Mine. No second hiker. No gray jacket. Nothing. Security footage from the parking lot showed me arriving alone, walking onto the trail alone. Nobody matching the stranger ever appeared. I insisted the cameras had missed him. The ranger didn't argue. Instead, he opened a cabinet and removed several printed reports. Different years, different hikers, different seasons. Each report mentioned meeting an experienced stranger who suggested taking an unofficial shortcut shortly before sunset. Descriptions varied. Different height, different clothing, different age. One thing never changed. None of them appeared on entrance cameras. None signed the register. Every witness remembered talking with someone whose name they could never recall afterward. The ranger finally asked for my phone. When it finished charging, we checked the location history. My timeline showed something strange. Between 4:56 and 7:41 p.m., there was no movement. According to the phone, I'd remained perfectly still, in the middle of the forest. Yet my fitness app showed nearly 6 miles walked. The timestamps didn't match. My photographs didn't match. Even my voicemail history contained a missed call from myself, timestamped 6:18 p.m. The recording lasted 4 seconds, just heavy breathing. Then, very quietly, my own voice saying, "Don't follow him." I don't know how that recording exists. I don't know why my phone lost almost 3 hours. I don't know who that stranger really was. But I do know one thing. Last month, almost a year later, I replaced my old phone. Before resetting it, I exported every GPS record I'd ever saved. There was one route I'd never seen before. Created automatically. No date, no start point, no destination. Just a thin gray line leading into that same section of forest. When I zoomed all the way in, there was a single note attached to the end of the route. It wasn't typed. It appeared where GPS coordinates should have been. 5 words. You turned around too soon. Story 2. The flashlight hit the wall for maybe half a second, but that was enough. My name was carved into the wood so deeply the fresh splinters were still hanging from the letters. And underneath it, someone had scratched, "You made it later than last time." At that exact moment, the cabin door slammed behind me. My phone vibrated with a GPS notification that read, "Unknown location saved." And I heard slow footsteps circling the cabin, even though I had watched the only man anywhere near me disappear down the trail almost 10 minutes earlier. I remember thinking one thing, and it wasn't how I was going to get out. It was, who the hell had written my name before I'd ever been there? This happened in northern Idaho a little over 2 years ago. I wasn't camping. I wasn't looking for abandoned buildings. I had driven out to hack a loop trail that locals recommended because it overlooked an old fire valley. It was supposed to take around 3 hours. I left later than I should have, around 4 in the afternoon, figuring I'd still finish before dark. The ranger at the entrance barely looked up from his paperwork. He asked if I was hiking alone. I said yes. He handed me a map, circled the main trail with a pen, and looked at me for an extra second. "If somebody offers you a shortcut after sunset," he stopped talking. I laughed. "What?" He shrugged. "Never mind. Stay on the marked trail." I thought it was just standard park advice. About 90 minutes later, I reached a split in the trail where an older man stood beside a weathered signpost. Late 60s maybe. Green flannel shirt, gray beard, nice enough smile. He asked if I was heading back toward the parking area. "Yeah." He pointed toward a narrow trail almost hidden by brush. "This cuts 30 minutes off." I checked my phone. Oddly enough, Google Maps showed the shortcut. So did the hiking app I was using. Neither had shown it earlier. You use this often? I asked. Every week. He started walking before I answered. I figured he knew the area better than I did. I followed. The shortcut actually looked maintained. Fresh footprints, recently cut branches, even bicycle tire marks. Nothing seemed abandoned. The old man wasn't overly friendly, but he wasn't strange either. We talked about fishing, wildfires, weather, normal things. Then, maybe 15 minutes later, he asked me something that felt oddly personal. "What's your full name?" I hesitated. He noticed. "Just making conversation," I told him. He nodded once. Never offered his own. We rounded another bend. The GPS zoomed in by itself. Instead of showing roads or trails, the screen turned pale gray. A blue dot remained. Everything else disappeared. Then new text faded onto the display. Navigating, destination, unknown location, distance remaining 0.3 miles. I frowned. What? The old man looked back immediately. "You seeing something strange?" I showed him. His expression flattened, like he'd expected it. "Ignore it." "You've seen this before?" "No." "Then how do you know?" He simply kept walking. That should have been enough for me to turn around. Instead, I convinced myself it was some mapping error. Cell service out there wasn't great. Another 5 minutes passed. The forest became unnaturally quiet. No birds, no squirrels. Even the wind seemed blocked somehow. Then I noticed something else. We hadn't seen another hiker since taking the shortcut. Not one. The old man suddenly stopped. "Listen." I listened. Nothing. He nodded toward a narrow opening through the trees. "The cabin's through there." "What cabin?" "Emergency shelter." "I thought you said this was a shortcut." "It is." He smiled again. Same friendly smile. Except this time, it looked practiced, not genuine. I followed him anyway. Mostly because I could already see the roof through the trees. Small, old, definitely real. As we got closer, I noticed the front windows had been boarded from the inside. That felt unusual. Emergency shelters are normally accessible. This one looked sealed. The old man climbed the porch steps, knocked twice. Nobody answered. Then he opened the door without using a key. "After you." I didn't move. "You coming?" He laughed softly. "I'm just grabbing something I left. I'll wait." His smile disappeared for the first time. "You really don't want to stand out here after dark." I wish I had. Instead, I stepped inside. Dust everywhere. Broken chair. Old fireplace. One lantern hanging from the ceiling. The place smelled dry. Unused. The old man walked into another room. I heard drawers opening, then silence. Complete silence. "Find it?" I asked. No answer. I walked toward the back room. Empty. No windows open, no second exit. The man was simply gone. I checked every room. Nothing. The only exit was the front door. I would have heard it leave. That's when the flashlight crossed the wall. My name, every letter carved deeply into the wood. Below it, "You made it later than last time." I honestly thought someone was playing an elaborate prank. Maybe hidden cameras, maybe social media nonsense. Then I looked closer. Underneath my name were several others, different handwriting, different years. Most had dates beside them. Some names had a single line scratched through them. Mine didn't. My phone vibrated. Battery, 28%. It had been 91% less than half an hour earlier. A notification appeared. Unknown location saved successfully. No app logo, no explanation. Just that message. I tried opening maps. Blank gray screen. No roads, only one label. Cabin. No coordinates. Outside, footsteps. Slow. Crunch. Pause. Crunch. Someone circling the building. I rushed to the window. Nothing visible. The footsteps continued, always just outside the beam of my flashlight. I called out, Hello. Silence. The footsteps stopped, then started again, on the opposite side. I grabbed the door handle. Locked. I was certain I hadn't locked it. It wouldn't budge. I shoved harder. Nothing. A minute later, it opened effortlessly. No resistance. Outside, nobody. Just fading daylight. I decided I was done. Shortcut or not, I started back the way we'd come. Except, the trail wasn't there anymore. Not over ground. Gone. Only trees. I circled the cabin twice looking for it. Nothing. My GPS still insisted I was standing at cabin. Distance to parking lot. Calculating, never finishing. Then, another notification. A text message from my younger brother. Dude, where are you? You've been ignoring me for almost 4 hours. I stared. It had only been about 40 minutes. The timestamp on his message said 9:11 p.m. My phone clock read 6:02 p.m. I replied immediately. The message failed. No signal. I tried calling 911. The phone displayed emergency calls only, then disconnected before ringing. The footsteps returned, this time closer. They stopped directly behind the cabin. I walked around carefully. Nothing. No tracks. Fresh dirt. No footprints. Nothing. Then, an engine. Somewhere in the distance. Relief flooded through me. I shouted. No response. The engine faded away. When I rounded the front corner again, there was an unfamiliar pickup truck parked 50 yards away between the trees. Lights off, engine off, driver's door open. I hadn't heard it arrive. I approached carefully. Nobody inside. The keys were still in the ignition, warm. Someone had driven it recently. On the passenger seat sat a folded trail map. My trail map. The one the ranger had circled, except there was additional handwriting on it. A red line leading to the cabin. At the end, someone had written, "Second attempt." I backed away immediately. Then I heard a radio, static first. Then a man's voice, "Unit 3, anyone near Cedar Basin cabin?" Another burst of static, possible missing hiker. I followed the sound. It came from the truck. The radio crackled again. "Responding ranger, identify yourself." I grabbed the microphone. I'm not a ranger. I'm lost." Silence. Then another voice. Different man. "What's your name?" I told him. The radio went completely silent. Long enough that I thought it had died. Finally, "Repeat your name." I did. The reply came slowly. "Stay where you are." "I've been trying. Is there anyone with you?" "No." Another pause. "Do not follow the older man if he returns." My stomach tightened. "Who is he?" Static. Then, "We've received that description before." The transmission ended. The truck radio shut off. Battery completely dead. I looked toward the cabin. Someone was standing on the porch. The old man. Exactly where I'd first seen him. Perfectly still, watching me. I started toward him, then stopped. Something felt wrong. He wasn't blinking, wasn't moving. Just standing. I shouted. He raised one arm slowly and pointed behind me. I turned instinctively. Nothing. When I looked back, the porch was empty again. I didn't wait. I ran. Straight into the trees. No trail. Didn't matter. I just kept moving. Branches whipped across my face. My flashlight bounced wildly. After maybe 10 minutes, I burst onto a gravel road. A real road. Headlights approached. An actual park ranger. He stopped immediately. Asked if I was injured. I told him everything. The shortcut, the old man, the cabin, my name on the wall. He listened without interrupting. Then asked one question. What color was the flannel shirt? Green. He sighed quietly. You aren't the first. Back at the ranger station, they checked the trail cameras. Nobody matching the old man's description appeared entering the park. Only me, walking alone. The ranger pulled an incident binder from a cabinet. Inside were statements dating back nearly 15 years. Every third or fourth report described an older man suggesting a shortcut near sunset. The clothing changed. His age barely changed. His name was never remembered. Then they showed me something stranger, an aerial survey map. There was no cabin, not anymore. According to park records, it had burned down in a wildfire 8 years earlier. Nothing remained except the stone chimney. The next morning, with 2 rangers, I insisted on returning. I wanted to prove I wasn't imagining things. We reached the location. Only a cracked chimney, collapsed foundation, no walls, no porch, no roof. Certainly nowhere my name could have been carved. I actually felt embarrassed. Until one ranger noticed something. Half buried beneath ash and weeds, a blackened section of old wooden wall. He brushed dirt away. Fresh carving marks. Not weathered, fresh. There was writing. Not my name anymore. Someone else's. Dated 3 days earlier. The ranger photographed it. Neither of us spoke. Before leaving, I checked my phone one last time. The GPS had finally corrected itself. The unknown location was gone. Everything looked normal. Or so I thought. 3 months later, I was organizing old photos on my laptop. There weren't any pictures from that hike. I hadn't taken any. Except, there was one image I had never seen before. A blurry photograph captured at 6:01 p.m. Inside the cabin, facing that wall. My name wasn't on it. Instead, the carving simply read, "Leave before he learns your name." Story 3. The gas station security monitor showed my truck parked in front of pump number 3. While I was still driving it through a town, my GPS insisted was only 30 seconds away. My dashboard clock had frozen at 8:17 p.m. My phone kept announcing, "You have arrived," even though there were no buildings around me, and the headlights suddenly illuminated a welcome sign that made my hands lock around the steering wheel. It read, "Welcome to Ash Creek, population 312. 5 seconds later, the sign was lying face down in the ditch behind me, as if I'd imagined it. I slammed the brakes, looked in the mirror, and there was nothing there except empty highway. That's the moment I realized I wasn't just lost. Somehow, my GPS was taking me somewhere that shouldn't have existed. This happened last November while I was driving across eastern Montana for work. I inspect communication towers for a contractor, so long highway drives are just part of the job. That afternoon, I'd finished earlier than expected and decided to avoid the interstate. My navigation app suggested a rural state highway that would supposedly save 40 minutes. It seemed reasonable. Traffic was almost non-existent. The weather was clear. Cell service faded in and out, but that wasn't unusual. About an hour into the drive, I stopped at a small convenience store for coffee. The cashier, an older woman, noticed the route on my phone while I paid. "You're taking County 14? "Yeah." She stared for a second too long. "If your GPS tells you to leave the pavement after dark, just stop talking." I smiled. "It won't." She didn't smile back. "Just don't." "Shh." That should have been the end of it. Around sunset, my phone recalculated the route. A new message appeared. "Faster road available. Save 23 minutes. I accepted without thinking. The next instruction surprised me. "Turn right onto unnamed road." There wasn't really a road. Just a gravel lane disappearing into open ranch land. Still, there were fresh tire tracks, fence posts, mailboxes. It looked maintained, so I turned. For the first 10 minutes, everything felt normal. The gravel road stretched across rolling hills. A couple abandoned barns, windmills, nothing unusual. Then, my estimated arrival time stopped changing. No matter how far I drove, it remained exactly 12 minutes away. I reset the app. Same thing, 12 minutes, always. Then another notification appeared. Approaching destination, Ash Creek. I'd never heard of it. I tapped the town name. No information loaded. No population. No businesses. Nothing. Just a blank page. I figured it was too small to matter. Then I noticed something stranger. My offline maps didn't recognize the town either. The route existed. The destination didn't. About 5 minutes later, I passed a pickup truck parked beside the road, engine running, driver's door open. Nobody nearby. I slowed. No one called for help. No movement. The truck looked new, keys still in the ignition, coffee steaming in a cup holder. It felt like whoever owned it had stepped away for only a moment. I kept driving. Half a mile later, I passed the same truck again. Same position, same headlights, same open door. This time I checked my mirrors. There was only one road, no intersections, no possible loop. I told myself it had to be another truck, except the license plate matched. My stomach tightened. I accelerated. The GPS calmly announced, "You are 8 minutes from Ash Creek." Still 8. It should have been getting closer. Darkness settled quickly after that. The radio started filling with static, not unusual in remote areas. Then voices slipped through. Not clear conversations, just fragments. Arriving. Don't stop. Still early. Still early. I changed stations. Every frequency carried the same static. Finally, I connected my phone instead. No music, only silence. The Bluetooth claimed it was playing something, zero sound. Then my phone screen dimmed. The map zoomed in automatically. Road names disappeared. Everything except a single blue line faded away. The destination label remained. Ash Creek. Population. Updating. Never finishing. Never finishing. A pair of headlights appeared behind me. Relief. Finally another driver. The vehicle stayed exactly the same distance behind me for nearly 15 minutes. Never overtook me. Never fell back. I couldn't make out the make or model. Just headlights. Every time I slowed, it slowed. When I sped up, it matched me perfectly. Eventually, I pulled onto the shoulder to let it pass. The headlights disappeared. Not drove away. Disappeared. The road behind me was empty. No turns, no dust, nothing. A mile later, my phone chimed again. "You have arrived." I looked outside. Nothing. Just prairie. Then the welcome sign appeared. Ash Creek. Population 312. Old wood, fresh paint. Before I could even process it, my headlights swept past. I looked into the mirror. The sign was gone. Completely. I stopped immediately. Backed up. Nothing. Not broken, not knocked over. Nothing had ever been there. That's when I noticed lights in the distance. Maybe 20 houses, a church steeple, water tower, definitely a town. Relief hit instantly, until I realized there hadn't been any lights a second earlier. I drove toward them anyway. Main Street looked frozen in time. Old brick storefronts, closed diner, hardware store, post office, street lights glowing weakly, no cars moving, no people walking, not even a dog. Everything looked maintained. Not abandoned, just empty. The GPS announced, "Destination is on your left." My destination turned out to be the town hall. Every light inside was on. I parked. The front door stood open. I called out. Nobody answered. Inside the lobby sat a visitor register. The last signature was dated that afternoon. Someone named Daniel Morris. Time, 7:52 p.m. Only one problem. The ink was still wet. I touched it. It smeared across my finger. Someone had signed in recently. I searched the building. Conference room. Mayor's office. Hallways. Nobody. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow. Measured. I followed them. Halfway up, they stopped. The second floor was completely empty. One office door stood open. Inside, an old desktop computer was running. The monitor displayed a security camera feed. 4 cameras, Main Street, gas station, town hall entrance. The timestamp read 8:17 p.m. My frozen dashboard time. Camera 3 showed my truck parked outside. Except, I wasn't parked yet. According to the monitor, I was just getting out of the driver's seat. I was standing there watching footage of myself arriving, while I hadn't actually done it yet. The future version of me looked toward the camera, then directly into it. He raised one hand, pointed toward the hallway behind me. I turned instinctively. Nobody. When I looked back, the monitor had switched to static. I left immediately. Outside, my truck was exactly where the monitor had shown it. I don't remember parking there. I honestly don't. The engine was off, keys still in the ignition. My phone battery had dropped from 70% to 14. I started the truck. Nothing. No crank. Dead battery. Impossible. It had been serviced 2 weeks earlier. A knock hit the passenger window. I nearly jumped. An older sheriff stood outside. County uniform, flashlight, calm expression. He motioned for me to lower the window. "You shouldn't be here after dark." I explained the GPS, the shortcut, the town. He listened quietly, then asked, "What town?" "Ash Creek." His expression changed slightly. "We're in Hollow Junction." "No." I pointed toward the welcome sign. Except there wasn't one. I asked where everyone was. He looked genuinely confused. "What people?" He shined his flashlight down Main Street. Half the buildings were boarded up, windows broken. The diner roof had collapsed. The post office was missing its front wall. Everything looked abandoned, not old, destroyed. I stared. 5 seconds earlier, the buildings had been lit, occupied. Now they looked like they'd been empty for years. The sheriff asked if I'd hit my head. I insisted someone had just signed the visitor register. He followed me inside. The register was still there. The last signature was dated. Different name. Dry pages. No fresh ink. No sneer on my finger any wore. The office upstairs didn't even have electricity. The computer I'd seen wasn't there. Just an empty desk. The sheriff eventually drove behind me until we reached the highway. Cell service returned almost immediately. My phone rebooted itself. The destination vanished. I figured that was the end of it. Until I stopped for fuel an hour later. The cashier looked at me strangely. "You're okay?" "Yeah." "You've been here before?" "No." She turned the receipt printer toward me. Earlier transaction, same pump, same truck, same credit card. Timestamp, 8:17 p.m. Exactly when I was supposedly driving through Ash Creek. Security footage confirmed it. There I was, buying coffee, paying, leaving, while I remembered being 40 miles away. The manager let me watch the recording. I noticed something no one else seemed to. As I walked out of the store in footage, I stopped at the entrance, turned toward the camera, then mouthed 5 slow words. There was no audio, but I didn't need it. I knew exactly what I'd said, because I'd said it myself. Don't let it reroute you. I requested my GPS history from the app a few weeks later. Every destination I'd entered over the previous 5 years was listed correctly, except one. There was a completed trip to Ash Creek. Distance traveled, arrival time, average speed. Everything looked legitimate. Clicking the destination opened a completely blank map. No coordinates, no satellite image, nothing. The location technically existed, but nowhere on Earth. I deleted the trip. The next morning it had returned. Same route, same arrival time, same impossible destination. I bought a different phone, switched navigation apps, even changed vehicles. It didn't matter. Once every few months, usually when I'm driving alone after sunset, my dashboard lights dim for just a second, and every navigation screen I've owned displays the same notification before correcting itself. Faster route available. Save 23 minutes. I never accept it anymore, but sometimes, without touching the screen, I hear the navigation voice whisper anyway. Recalculating route to Ash Creek.